Talking all about dieting recovery here on this Facebook Live, how to reestablish your relationship with food and just maybe learn to love your body a little bit more. So join me, turn the volume up. I'm Andrea Hallwagner, registered dietitian. And here at Health Stand Nutrition, we do a lot of work on dieting recovery and getting people to feel more comfortable in their own skin when it comes to food and when it comes to their body. And so this is an important topic for sure, because every day in our office, we meet people at war with food, at war with really disliking or in some cases even hating their body. And so if you've struggled or know somebody that struggled, I'd encourage you to stay tuned on the session and then click on the link that's associated with my video up above there, where you can learn a little bit more about how we tend to start beginning to repair a relationship with food with our clients. And lots of great information there in the link I'm sharing. Not only just information, but also a little workbook that you can download to help explore a couple of things to get you started. So, have you ever wondered, when you've watched people eat, how do some people just simply eat? They don't seem to have any food hang-ups. They don't seem to have any sort of weird rules they follow. They tend to just be able to leave a certain amount of food on the plate when they're full. They tend to know when their body's hungry and when they're certainly full, and they just seem to know what to do. And you've wondered to yourself, how do they do that? So that's what the definition of a true intuitive eater would look like. They're really in touch with their hunger and fullness cues and have a healthy relationship with food and body. And so if you have struggled in wondering, how do people do that? Because I'm always in my head, I'm always thinking about food rules and what I should or shouldn't be eating, then this segment is definitely for you. So a couple of things that I want to start off with here. When people are struggling with food and their body, a lot of this has come from early learning that we've picked up all along in terms of when we were a kid or even how we were raised, our own parents' relationship with food. For those of you that are female, particularly your mom's relationship with food and their weight have a real strong influence over why you think about food the way that you think about it. In fact, here's a couple of the standard sort of things that we hear quite regularly. See if you can relate to any of these. And of course, if you're willing and open to be able to share maybe what a food rule or a body rule has been for you in the past, maybe you've broken through it, or maybe you're still kind of struggling with it, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Whether you're watching live or whether you are joining me after this video goes live, I'd love to hear in the comments maybe some of the things that you picked up along the way, either in your own family or by a coach, a dance instructor, maybe just on Instagram or in some sort of a social media feed. What are you hearing when it comes to food rules and belief systems? Here's a couple of really common ones that we hear in our practice. The number on the scale today will determine what and how much I am allowed to eat. Common rule that we hear, of course, not true, and one that we're really working hard to help people break free. Oftentimes people say, I feel stressed about eating. I watch other people eat and wonder how they find joy and pleasure when I see food is the enemy. If you can relate to that one, let me know in the comments. It's a common one. We also have clients say, I feel shame and judgment if I eat ice cream or chips or chocolate in front of people. We also have people will say, I'm only allowed to eat when I've exercised today. So the concept or belief system that food must be tied exactly to exercise. Certainly not the case. We also have people say, I've really second-guessed my choices. I've forgotten how to eat normally. I get anxious in front of people or in places where I don't know what is in the food. We see people, not feeling comfortable eating out unless they've pre-planned and looked up everything online to understand the calories and grams of this and that in particular foods on their apps or on websites before they'll eat somewhere. We also see people say there must be something wrong with me because I barely eat and I still struggle with my weight. And previous Facebook Live, I talked a lot about the concept that weight is, of course, not tied to simply just calories in and calories out. There's so much more, many factors that we have no control over that really influence our weight. One of the other sort of common rules or thoughts or things that we get in our practice is people will say, I've lost touch with knowing when I'm hungry and full since I've been stuffing and starving myself for so long. I have no idea what hunger cues look like. A couple more here that are so common. I have so much noise in my head about eating and my weight that I miss out on many social things and life opportunities. I see food as good or bad and eating as all or none with no middle ground. Just earlier today, I was chatting with a woman in recovery from her addiction to alcohol, and we talked about the fact that recovering from an eating disorder is so much more difficult, according to many of the clients we've seen battle both addiction and eating disorders here, that battling the eating disorder is often a heck of a lot harder than battling alcohol and drug addiction because food is gray. It is not black and white. It's not simply something you can avoid. Every day we're making hundreds of decisions around what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, and it can get particularly overwhelming when it comes to making all those choices. We also have, finally, people say, I hate my body and I know life will be better if I could only be smaller. But of course we know, and I know you know, deep down, if you really thought about it, life is not different if you're X number of pounds lighter. It really isn't. The same self-worth stuff is always going to be there, regardless of what size that you're at. So those are common struggles that we hear around food and body. So thanks for joining me live. Those of you that are with me, Kristen and Chelsea, yay! I love having somebody listening live. And for those of you that are joining me later, love to know in the comments, can you relate to any of those thoughts from many of our clients around food struggles? So now let's get into the heart of it though. What do we do with that? What do we do when there's so many different rules and second guessings around dieting and wanting to break through of that? So first things first, number one, learning to trust others until you can trust yourself. One of the most important things to really notice is that you cannot become an intuitive eater right out of the gates if you've had a horrific dieting history. You've been on and off all sorts of weight loss based plans, or you've had an eating disorder. I promise you, intuitive eating and mindfulness based eating are just not for you right now. It doesn't mean not forever, but right now, the best thing that you can do is really working with an excellent therapist and an excellent dietitian that really understands both emotional based eating and eating disorder recovery, dieting recovery in general. And trust them to lead you with good science, good, credible, evidence-based information about what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, and really help walk you through the core fundamentals of what we call mechanical-based eating. Mechanical-based eating is really helping you to reset your body's ability to detect hunger and fullness cues. And once you've practiced all of that sort of more structured based eating, then what your body can do is over time, you're going to hear things like, gee, I didn't really enjoy that, or gee, I wish I could have more, I was still hungry, or gee, I know my dietitian encouraged me to eat that portion, but it felt like a little bit too much. You're able to screen through that from a very clear, intuitive, honoring your body, honoring hunger perspective instead of from a dieting-based mindset or an eating disorder-based mindset. And that's really hard to do right out of the gates if you've struggled with food for a long time. So again, learning to trust others until you can trust yourself is very, very key. And again, you don't need a clean eating coach. You don't need another diet. You don't need someone to tell you a long list of forbidden foods. What you really need is someone with common sense, straightforward advice based on science to help begin the process of resetting a healthier relationship with food. Number two, this is one of my favorites. You are worthy of eating no matter what. So many of our clients that are struggling with food relationship issues really base food decisions based on how earlier today was, how well last night went, whether they exercised, all of these external measures around deciding what to eat should not set the premise for whether you're allowed to eat anything at all today or even what quantity of food to eat today. One of the things that's really key is making sure that you are worthy of eating no matter what. And this is a hard one for a lot of our clients to wrap their head around, because there's I'm only allowed to eat if, and then fill in the blank. The scale says I can, or I didn't overdo it too much earlier today or the day before. All of these things can get in the way. And really at the end of the day, everyone has a basic physiologic, biologic need to eat. And so no matter what has happened today, no matter how far off your nutrition is, or maybe how little you've exercised, or whatever the diet sort of base rule mindset is, you are worthy of eating today. So very, very important. Eating is a basic need. It is not a reward. So I'm going to say that again. This is really important. Eating is a basic need. It is not a reward. Number 3 on our list here, start with mechanical eating before moving to intuitive eating. This really builds on what I was talking about earlier, and really trusting the right therapist and dietitian at the very beginning. To then be able to really hear your own food preferences again, instead of sort of the dieting mindset out there. Once we understand generally how people fuel themselves, we can start to screen through what I call their food personality. And when we look at your food personality, we're going to start to see some patterns after a while when you've been practicing this more mechanical based eating for a while. We're going to start to see that, hey, maybe you're someone that likes eating in the morning, or someone that doesn't. Or maybe we're going to see that you're someone that needs a mid-afternoon snack because there's a long period of time with nothing. We're going to see some of you are going to need a bedtime snack, whereas others, maybe not. Maybe you have a late supper and eat more sort of European style. There is not one way to eat. And so even though at the very beginning of diet recovery or eating disorder recovery, we use a lot of structured mechanical based eating, it's not to say that it's always going to look like that. We need to retrain the body to be able to hear those messages and really have your own authentic voice come out when you approach food. And so, yes, I know you want to get to intuitive eating and be able to mindfully eat. It's going to come when you're repairing your diet recovery. You just got to give it the right time and the right order for things to unfold. So one final note, for sure, of course, as many of you know, if you've listened to any of my lives or any of our articles on our blog or on our newsletter that we send out weekly, there are no bad foods. They're really only overall bad diets. And so the best diet you can follow is not even really a diet, because that has the word die in it. It's going to be looking at achieving a balanced living lifestyle. And that includes both foods that are chosen for healthful purposes, those geeky, nutritious foods that are good for overall wellness. And then, of course, on the other hand, balancing out those soulful foods that we choose for fun, taste, social enjoyment. Our goal at HealthStand is really to help people figure out how to balance both of those. One without the other tends to get people into trouble. And so the best eaters we know have been able to figure out that balance. And that's certainly how we eat as dietitians over here, and certainly what we're inspiring our clients to be able to discover. So listen, love to know in the comments if you found something particularly helpful here. Out of my 3 points again, which one resonated the most with you? Number 1 was learn to trust others before you can trust yourself. Number 2, you are worthy of eating no matter what. And number 3, start with mechanical eating before ever moving over to intuitive eating. Which one spoke to you the most? Which one is the one that you're thinking, I got that one, or I thought that one was a particularly interesting point, and I'm going to work on that or share that with somebody that I know really needs that message. So I want to remind you, in the link that I've provided associated with the video here, you can download my 3 steps for repairing your relationship with food. I've got some additional content above and beyond what I've talked about in this video or on the content that you're reading right on the website link there. So if you click on that link and that graphic that says Dieting Recovery, 3 Steps to Repairing Your Relationship with Food, you're going to get a nice resource emailed over to you with some additional reading on food rules and and how to challenge those things, and an additional 3 steps for where to begin after sort of thinking about the information that I've shared here on this video. So thanks for joining me. I will see you next week, same time on a Wednesday, 12:30 Mountain Time for my next Facebook Live, and I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.